Hi, good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. We are about to start with this second webinar on LDCs experiences in transparency reporting on adaptation and loss and damage. And today we will focus on loss and damage. And while we wait for other people to join, we'll start briefly introducing myself. I'm Fernanda Alcobe, and I work in the climate diplomacy team in IIED. As I was mentioning, I'm working in IIED, and we are jointly, we have the pleasure to jointly organize this webinar series with the LDC group on preparing the Biennial Transparency Reports. Last Wednesday, we had the pleasure to have the LDC chair, Ambassador Adao Suarez Barbosa, opening these two webinar series. And we listened to a great panelist talking about adaptation, reporting on adaptation chapter in the BTR. Today, as I was mentioning, we will focus on reporting on loss and damage. As you know, the Biannual Transparency Reports is the main vehicle to report under the Paris Agreement, and is the only instrument through which countries can provide information related to enhancing understanding, actions, and support to avert, minimize, and address loss and damage associated with climate change. And this series is aimed at offering ideas and concrete examples to other countries that are joining today, or they can watch later the recording, and to encouraging those who have not yet submitted the BTR or have not yet submitted the adaptation chapter, or with including the loss and damage section to do so. And today we have another amazing panel with experts from Malawi, Madagascar, and Zambia. I will encourage them to turn their cameras on, and if we can put them on the spotlight. And I will be also moderating the panel today. We announced Yamikani Idris from Malawi, and the lead negotiator for the LDCs was going to moderate, but he unfortunately has another clashing commitment, so he will probably join us later. And so I will be moderating this panel, where we have Lalaina Ambininsoa. Lalaina is head of database monitoring and evaluation division at the National Office for Climate Change and REDD+ at the Ministry of the Environment and Sustainable Development of Madagascar. And we have also Gambwe Sinkantongwe. He is the Principal Green Economy Officer and the Business Development at the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment in Zambia. And we also have Annie Mapulanga. She's a Principal Economist at the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, and Annie in Malawi. And Annie was part of the team preparing Malawi's BTR, working particularly on the loss and damage section. And all of them have been involved in preparing their country's BTR. I can see, I don't know if we have some issues with Gambwe, maybe. I cannot see him.
I think he's dropped off, Fernanda, but we'll try and get him back on.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. So while we wait for Gambwe to rejoin, we will start with Lalaina. And welcome, Lalaina. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks, Annie, also for joining us today. And the first question is about reporting on the BTR on the adaptation. So we know that reporting on loss and damage and adaptation in the BTR, it's a voluntary section, There are countries that don't need to report on that mandatorily. So what we would like to know, what motivated Madagascar to include it, and what did you hope to achieve by reporting on loss and damage in your BTR?
Thank you so much, Fernanda. Good afternoon, everyone. As introduced by Fernanda, I'm Lalena from Madagascar. I work at the Ministry of Environment in the National Office for Climate Change and the Red Plus. I was also a member of the team that work on BTR, Madagascar's BTR1. Which was submitted in March 2026. So thank you for inviting Madagascar to participate in this webinar. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So before answering the question, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the context of island of Madagascar. So Madagascar is one of countries most vulnerable to climate change. We are already facing stronger tropical cyclones, droughts in the south part, floods, and coastal erosion. So these events cause major economic losses, but also non-economic impacts, including loss of life, health problems, damage to biodiversity and ecosystem. So this reality motivated us to include loss and damage in the BTR1. Although reporting on loss and damage is voluntary in their BTR, Madagascar considered it important to include this information because it allows us to present a more complete and realistic picture of the climate impact affecting our country. So as a least developed country, Madagascar views the BTR as a valuable opportunity to report on loss and damage, document economic and non-economic impacts, identify data gaps, and strengthen national planning and information systems. Credible information on loss and damage appropriate to Fernanda.
Sorry, Lalaina, it seems that we lost you for some seconds. The last part that was where you were explaining that the losses and why you were like you wanted to report because of the importance of having database and information in your country. And I think from that we lost you a bit. If you can repeat that part.
Okay, sorry for the connection is not very good for today. Yeah. So as I said, as a least developed country, Madagascar views the BTR as a valuable opportunity to report on loss and damage. And credible information on loss and damage can also help the country to demonstrate its needs and to help mobilize appropriate financial, technical, and capacity building support.
Thanks so much. Yes, that's important to see what are the benefits and not to see reporting only as a kind of a burden, but an opportunity to showcase countries' actions and needs and support needs. So I can see now that we have Gamwe has rejoined. Thanks for joining us today and welcome. If can you hear me? Can you hear me, Gamwe?
Yes, I can get you
Yes,
clear.
perfect.
Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm now using a phone, but technicians are working on the laptop. When it connects, then I'll use the laptop, but I think we can get started with the phone.
Yes, no problem with that. Connections are not always, connectivity is not always an easy thing to fix yet. So yeah, now we were listening to Lalaina. She was mentioning why it was important for Madagascar to report on loss and damage and to present that information, and even though it is voluntary, and we want to know about Zambia and about what are the main for you, what are the main economic and non-economic losses that Zambia is experiencing. And if you were able to report, were you able to report on all of them in the BTR? And what were the challenges that you encountered in reporting on the loss and damage section? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, Zambia is like any other developing country, has experienced economic and non-economic losses. And these impacts have affected our livelihood and affected ecosystem, infrastructure, and human well-being. The main economic losses experienced in Zambia, they are quite a number, but the key ones, first is an agriculture. And this agriculture, we have a reference, especially in 2023-2024 season, where the farmer completely harvested nothing. And ultimately, even the government had to declare a national disaster because that was quite intensive drought. So that effect also affected the water level in the rivers. And as you are aware, or may be aware, that Zambia depend about 80% of electricity from hydro. So we are heavily affected with our power generations. We also have some infrastructure which were recorded and which were affected by some flood in some certain part of the country. Especially we have the bridges, schools, health facilities, which were collapsed because of floods. Forestry and the biodiversity equally because of water stress. We have some records of impact there together with the tourism. You know, major of our tourism, like is Victoria Falls, and this is depends upon the level of water. So when we have a year when we have quite enough water, that's when we receive quite a number of tourists who are visiting Victoria Falls. Health sector equally with some impact there. There are a number of diseases which were recorded. But even under non-economic losses, of course, these are losses we can't quantify in terms of monetary terms, but we have some records in there, especially the loss of human life because of the flood, and also animal conflicts. You know, when the food has become scarcity and water, animals tend to get closer to community to look for food and water. And in the process, there is that interaction with the community, and we have some records of conflict with the wildlife. There was also losses of the culture, heritage, and also sacred site, including a displacement of the community, especially in the areas of floods. We have quite to record that. Loss of traditional knowledge and indigenous practices, including the biodiversity, all these were recorded. And even some extent where psychological tumors and mental health impact. We have some example of such. I remember one of the part of the country which was hit with a drought, a certain man who had done quite a good work in terms of agriculture. He did a lot of work, but because of the drought, he lost everything. But now it becomes in his mind, just as he has been going to work every day, same time in the morning, even when the disaster happened, he maintained the same time going to the field to just go there and stay, just because that has been his life. So these are few of the non-economic losses which were recorded. So in terms of if we have reported all this in the biannual transparency, the answer is no. Like, as I said, many other developing countries, Zambia's first the annual transparency focuses primarily on the greenhouse gases inventory and the progress towards NDC implementation, adaptation actions, support in the need and the needs and received. These are what we reported. But the loss and damage reported remains to in the early stage, because we still have no standard national loss and damage database. And also when you look at the historical climate loss and damage, climate loss data, fragmented across the different institutions. And many of non-economic losses are not routinely monitored. They are only commonly reported upon happening, and especially when it's something which a big instances. That's when there's that recording. So loss and damage are often reported only after a major disasters. So this shows the gaps we have, and as attributions of loss specifically to climate changes remain technically challenged to differentiate between the two.
Sorry. Yes, can you speak a little bit closer to the mic so the interpreters can hear you better to translate? Thank you. Apologies for interrupting you.
Thank you. Is it okay now?
It's better.
Is okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So in brief, I would indicate that our BTR provided only partial information, mainly drawn from the availability of data, disaster statistics, adaptation assessment, and sector report and national communication. So it's partial, we not report all these. And probably to mention on the challenges we incurred during our reporting on loss and damages. First, as I indicated, is limited of data availability. Lack of a long-term historical data set, which can help us to relate what is happening. We have these gaps. Missing also database baseline information, that's another gap, and also there's inconsistent sector data corrections. Fragmented institution data also is the key issues. In Zambia, we have institutions which are work closer to information around loss and damage, especially Department of Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit. We have also Meteorological Department, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Health, Water Resources Management, Zambia Statistics Agents, Zambia Management Agents. So all these institutions have part bit of the information on loss and damage, but these are information which are not found in one disposal. So they are scattered. This is one of the challenges we incurred. Also, there is also limited in terms of methodology. Currently, we don't have agreed methodology for quantifying climate-related losses. And also, it's difficult to distinguish climate-induced losses from other socio-economic drivers. Limited guidance for varying non-economic losses. So this is quite a challenge we have, including the limited of capacity, which is attributing also. There are few experts who are trained in loss and damage assessment in the country. Limited also expert in economic variations and the climate attributions. All these are gaps we are facing as a country. Of course, financial constraints, insufficient of resources to comprehensively do loss and damage assessment. We have a gap in terms of financial. Weak monitoring systems, as I indicated earlier on, some of the instances are only recorded once they happen. So we have no consistent data collection, which is very critical if we are to want to go comprehensively to report. There's also a challenge in terms of quantifying non-loss economic losses. It's really quite challenging. We have quite a gap in terms of capacity and expertise in these areas. So what maybe I could quickly recommend for us to enhance and also for future reporting to BTR. The first one is to develop the national loss and damage framework,
Yeah.
which is a critical.
Sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah.
If we can keep the recommendations for the next round, and so we can move to Annie, and then we can ask, we can go for the recommendations in the next section. Can that work for you?
Thank you. Thank you. It's fine.
Thank you so much. And it's yeah, it's important to also to highlight that, of course, that loss and damage is the first time that countries are reporting. There has never been a space to report or any experience, so it's there will be a lot of challenges until countries design, develop methodologies and try to report, and it's a work in process. And one of the challenges that you were mentioning was the institutional arrangements and the difficulty in have a monitoring system. So, and we saw that in Malawi, Annie, that there are like there is a specific department that is handling all the issues relating to loss and damage, and it would be interesting to know a little bit more how are the institutional arrangements for reporting on loss and damage in Malawi, and how did you work, how you worked with all the other stakeholders to gather that relevant information, and if we can have some idea on how other countries have been doing that. Over to you, Annie. Thanks.
Hi, Fernanda. Thank you. Apologies for the delay. Hi, everyone. So, yes, in Malawi, we have the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, which serves as the national focal point for loss and damage. And in terms of the institutional arrangements, at the national level, Malawi established the National Disaster Risk Management Committee, which is more or less like a higher level comprising of principal secretaries to provide strategic and policy guidance, and complementing this national committee is the Disaster Risk Management Technical subcommittee, which is now at technical level, at director level. And then at the district level, we have the district disaster risk management committees, which bring together representatives from various sectors to coordinate loss and damage activities, disaster risk management activities.
Sorry, it seems that we lost Annie. Probably some issues with the connection. But there she's back. Sorry, Annie. We lost you for a few seconds. Are you there?
Yeah, I think the connection.
Yes.
Can
Sorry,
you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Go on.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yes, so we have these institutional arrangements at different levels, from national level to district level and up to community level. And at the community level, which is more at the grassroots, we have the area GRM committees and community volunteers, which play a critical role in reporting loss and damage at the local level. So usually when the slow onset events and the extreme rapid events occur, the reports are consolidated. These at the local level, they report to the district level, and the district level submit these reports to the Department of Disaster Management Affairs. So to strengthen coordination, Malawi has adopted the cluster system approach at both national and district levels. So this cluster system approach is multi-sectoral in nature, and this multi-sectoral mechanism ensures that there is inclusivity and collaboration among all the key stakeholders. So we have what we call the intercluster coordination group, which is comprised of government agencies, the UN agencies, development partners, the private sector, civil society organizations, the international NGOs, and the local NGOs, which are responsible for gathering and consolidating relevant information from the districts and then up to the national level. So these institutional arrangements, through these institutional arrangements, Malawi effectively engages different diverse stakeholders to collect, analyze, and report loss and damage. This system ensures that information flows from the community level to the national level, while also enabling multi-sectoral collaboration that enhances the country's capacity to respond to and document the impacts of disasters. So these institutional arrangements have also been established. They're also in our Disaster Risk Management Act. So the Act also has set out these institutional arrangements just to enhance coordination in terms of loss and damage. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Annie, and very interesting how the information flows from the communities to the top level at the country, at national level. That's really an amazing example. And so now for you, Lalaina, you have gone through the reporting process. We know that it's the first time for most most LDCs, for all of them. And what were the main gaps and needs that you have identified to monitor, report, and track losses and damages? And if you have any plans for addressing those, or how we are thinking for the next BTR. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Fernanda, for the question. Actually, the reporting process helped us to identify several important gaps. Firstly, Madagascar still doesn't have the fully harmonized system for monitoring and reporting loss and damage. So that was the first challenge. And also, information is often spread across different departments, different institutions, and data collection after climate events is not always consistent. So it was very difficult for us to have so many informations. We have also faced important data gaps. Especially for non-economic losses such as impact on health, impact on ecosystems, on culture and livelihoods. This makes very difficult to measure the full scale of climate impacts and to compare them over time. Another challenge is the limited technical capacity to assess slow onset event.
Skal vi så ikke udskyde det, Chris? Så tror jeg, for så kan jeg komme tilbage senere, og det er jo ikke sådan, den er.
So as I said, the another challenge is the limited technical capacity. And it was also difficult for the team to assess the slow onset events. So to address these gaps, we are planning to, first of all, strengthening the national climate and socioeconomic databases to improve coordination between institutions first, and also to develop clearly the procedures for collecting, validating, and sharing information. We think that we also need technical capacity at both national and local levels, and better integrate climate risk and loss and damage into sectorial and territorial planning. The very important one is also financial, technical, and capacity building support. This is very essential for us, and we see this first BTR as an important starting point for building a stronger and more reliable national system over time. So those are the main challenge and the solution that we are planning to improve our BTR2. Thank you, Fernanda.
Yes, thanks so much, Lalaina. We see that there is like having a national institutional arrangement or a framework and all systems is a challenge, but yeah, that's the very common, I think, for reporting some new sections. And now I'm going Gamwe in the BTR Zambia. In relation to that, you mentioned that Zambia is working towards the development of a loss and damage framework. And could you explain us a bit what the framework will look like and whether it will provide information for future BTRs, or how are you thinking about that framework on loss and damage? Thank you.
Thank you. Am I able to hear me clearly?
So yeah, can you hear a bit? Can you talk a bit louder or maybe closer to the mic? Because it's a bit.
Okay.
Yes.
How is it now? That's
better,
fine.
much better. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But Zambia proposed the loss and damage framework. We intended to establish a structured national system for assessing, monitoring, and reporting, and also responding to climate change-induced loss and damage. Although this framework is still at the early stage, it's still being developed, but I can confirm that it has advanced because I think it has gone through 2 readings so far, but still going through being developed. So our purpose of developing the framework, first, as I indicated in the first discussion, that we have issues which we want to address it. The first one, we want to establish a common national approach for identifying and assess climate-related loss and damage. The second one is to improve on coordinations. I've indicated that we have quite a number of institutions who are responsible for loss and damage assignments. The third one is also to standardize the methodology for measuring both economic and non-economic losses. We need also to strengthen evidence-based planning and investment in resilience and also recovery. We want also to support access to international climate finance, include emergency finance mechanism for loss and damage, and also to meet international reporting obligations under enhanced transparency framework, including the future biennial transparency report. So for us to able to address all these, we have structured our framework into 7 chapters. The first chapter focuses on the governance and institutional arrangement, where we need now to address the issues of coordinations. Then the other chapters now will look at loss and damage assessment methodology. As I indicated that we don't have a standard methodology currently. So these are things which we need to address. How should we go in absence of this, or how to address the issues of standardizing methodology. The other chapters, in chapter 3, will look at data corrections and the international management, information management. We need also to come up with centralized national loss and damage database. I mentioned that this information is scattered, but this time around, we think by developing the framework, we were able to organize ourselves and have a database at a central place. Also, we need to standardize on the reporting templates across these institutions. So these are things we expect to do in chapter 3. Chapter 4, of course, we'll look now on monitoring, reporting, and verifications. We need to come up with indicators to monitor the trends of losses and damage over the time. We need also to have a regular reporting procedures rather than just depending upon the incidents happening. So this is what we expect in the framework to address. The 4th chapters will look at sector-specific assessment. We have sectors which are commonly sensitive to loss and damages related to climate change. So these sectors that include like agriculture, water resources, energy, forestry, health, infrastructure, tourism, and human settlement. So these have to have its own chapters where they will be looked in details. So we'll have also another chapter looking at economic and non-economic losses assessment, where we need to quantify and clear for ourselves to differentiate these two instances, economic losses and non-economic losses. And our last chapter will look on financial and recovery, where we need to come up with a mechanism for identifying the financial needs and also guide on linking assessment to the national budget, disaster recovery planning, insurance, international climate finance, and opportunity. So now contributing to future BTR, yes, one of the primary objectives for framework is to improve the quality of our consistent of information available for future BTR. The framework is expected just to generate on standard information database and related losses and damage. Also to enable reporting on both economic and non-economic losses using agreed national methodology. We also, by strengthening the transparency, by documenting assumption methodology and data sources, supporting reporting and adaptation effectiveness by demonstrating how climate impact evolved over time, and also how to intervention reduce vulnerabilities, even to provide evidence to inform the national adaptation planning, national determined contributions, and other reporting submitted under the UN. So the current status of the challenges was mentioned, but as transparency, the country is still developing this framework. Reporting on losses and damage currently relies on information from multiple institutions, and there are challenges related to fragmented database, inconsistent methodology, and limited variations of non-economic losses, and other capacity constraints. Developing a framework is therefore a priority for improving future transparency in the
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Hanwe. And so we have been discussing about the frameworks, the methodologies, all the challenges and reporting, and more about backward looking at the actions and the activities. So now, Annie, we saw that moving to the actions and how to address loss and damage. You have shared in the Malawi's BTR a range of projects that the country has put in place to address loss and damage. And could you tell us more about the main actions that you are currently implementing and what are the key areas where further support is needing to really move to the action that then we will be monitoring and reporting in the next BTR. Over to you.
Thank you, Fernanda. Indeed, yes, Malawi in its BTR1 shared a range of projects that have been or are currently being implemented to address loss and damage. And from the projects that have been shared, 50% of the projects have mainly focused on the provision of immediate humanitarian assistance after an extreme weather event, whereby we are using activation of contingent financing. And the other projects focused on putting in place systems and frameworks to make sure that there's reporting for loss and damage. In terms of the main actions that are currently being implemented, include establishment of the National Disaster Risk Management Trust Fund as a way to proactively set aside funds to rebuild critical infrastructure when emergencies strike. Investing in early warning systems. As a country, we are installing the automated weather stations, and at the community level, we have community-based early warning systems that are being installed. We are also setting up systems, frameworks, and piloting for anticipatory action, as we know that we have to implement these anticipatory actions before the emergency occurs. And in terms of just to make sure that those areas, those people that are living in prone areas, in like disaster-prone areas, we are constructing evacuation centers, like safe places for temporary coordination for loss and damage reporting. We are constructing in the districts emergency operation centers to improve reporting and monitoring and coordination. And for these, mainly these are being implemented in the prone areas as mentioned earlier on. And in terms of key areas where further support is needed, I think previously, most of the interventions have mainly focused in locations that are prone to the extreme weather events. However, Malawi last year undertook an assessment, which we call the National Hazard Risk Assessment. We have produced a risk atlas showing areas where they are risky, they are prone to disasters and the like. So this risk assessment has guided a lot of places that has shown a lot of places that are not safe. So from the assessment, it has projected other areas to be prone to extreme weather events in the near future if the situation like is at ease in terms of climate change, that it's not addressed. Hence, all things being equal, there's need to scale up these interventions to other locations that currently seem to be less affected by climate change impacts in order to avert and minimize loss and damage in these other areas. So specifically, further support is needed to fully operationalize the fund that government is setting in place, and also to scale up the information management system for loss and damage, which we are calling the Disaster Risk Management Information System, and also scale up the anticipatory actions, because currently we're piloting anticipatory cash and the like, and also scaling up and strengthening community-based early warning systems. And also, as a country, I think we are using international standards in terms of post-disaster needs assessment that help us to document the economic loss and damage. So we need to develop a localized standard operating procedures or a framework for undertaking this post-disaster needs assessment. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Annie. It seems that a lot of work needs to be done, but it's great you have that so clearly organized and stated. And so now we are moving to our last round, and we have I think a couple of questions later. So, as I was mentioned, one of the objectives of these webinars, the one last week on adaptation and this one, is to encourage other countries, especially LDCs, to include the section on loss and damage in their BTRs and the section on adaptation in their BTRs. So based on what you have learned through your own reporting experience and the work and the process, what advice would you give a country that is just starting to prepare their BTR? What advice could you give them? I can start with Lalaina, if it's fine with you.
Sure, thank you, Fernanda. So, if I would give some advice, I would say first of all, my main advice is to start early, and if possible, involve all key institutions from the beginning, and also do not wait for perfect data. So you can start with the data for now. Just use the best information available and clearly explain the BTR, what have been the gaps, and how you want to improve the system. So you can improve it step by step, but do not wait for the perfect data. I think that it's also important to build the national expertise. So you can have an external consultant, but I think that the BTR should help to strengthen institutions for the future reporting. I mean, we really need to get the national team involved in the system. And finally, just give enough time for review and for the validation. As I said, the first BTL may not be perfect, but it is a strong starting point for better transparency and for the future climate action. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lalaina. We'll start with what you have, and yeah, don't be afraid of reporting. So now I move to Gamwe. What could be your advice to a country that's starting to report on loss and damage?
Thank you very much. I think the first one is to work on coordinations. It's important to understand who does what and who should do what. It's very important, and also within that, it will also help to understand who has what in terms of the informations, because these are activities we may not completely say we completely don't have information. Information must be there, but it could be maybe sitting in a different offices where other people may not even have information that these informations are valuable. Because when you are reporting informations. So if the information is able to be located and used, that will be much better. So the other issues which is important is to work on capacity building among the responsible officers. This is a new things. We don't say there are people who are more advanced. Majority are almost in the similar level. So we need to have this program where we can help one another to have an idea what really needed to be reported. When we say non-economic losses, that should be clear. And with that, it will be very easy to bring up the information and submissions. There's also a need to work on the already existing assessment. We may start from already existing assessment, like in most cases, under agriculture. There could be already some assessment going on there, more organized, especially like annually, they do some more assessment. So we need from those assessments to see how the component of loss and damage are being addressed or included. Of course, there could be already information being captured, and we need to locate those informations and maybe realign it if it's not very much aligned, so that it is becomes a beginning point of collecting the data. So these are what I can advise to our new members who are planning to start reporting on BTR. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamwe. And Annie, what advice would you give us?
Thank you, Fernanda. Yeah, I think much has already been said in terms of what needs to be done. Coordination is very key. Using the available institutional arrangements that as a country you have in place to make sure that you coordinate with the key stakeholders in terms of loss and damage reporting. Because learning from the Malawi experience, the data, the information is available, but it's sitting in different departments, different ministries, different agencies. So you need to bring together all these agencies together, all these stakeholders that are key in terms of loss and damage reporting to make sure that you capture all the required information. And just to stress that even though reporting on loss and damage is voluntary, but I think as Malawi, we saw it very beneficial that we need to report on loss and damage because it also helped us to stock take in terms of the progress that as a country we've made, the initiatives that are currently underway, and where are the gaps, where do we need further support. So this whole exercise, it helps a country in terms of what are the national efforts, and you identify the gaps and needs, and you strengthen it. It's also a process that helps you to strengthen your coordination across institutions and stakeholders. So this reporting is also important, I think, at the national, at the international level, in terms of making sure that you communicate this information on loss and damage, so that you get the support and you create that global dialogue, understanding of the challenges that are being faced by the vulnerable countries. So I think that's what I can say on that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Annie. Those are great insights and great encouragement to other countries. Thanks so much, all of you, for your inputs and your answers. And we have one question from the participants that I will read it to you. I think maybe, I don't know who will answer, but maybe Annie, you have you share some experience, but it's for all speakers, so you can all share your experiences. They want to know if LDCs use citizen data or data coming from the public for monitoring, as the loss and damage is voluntary. And they wonder if any countries are using a citizen science approach to monitoring. I don't know if any of you know would like to answer. So is any of you using a citizen science approach to monitoring, and yeah, if they are using information coming from the public to report on loss and damage?
Maybe I can start.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think on the outline I've made in terms of how we are developing the loss and damage framework, we have indicated where we want to enhance our data collections, where we will look at geospatial systems. The idea is to see how we can bring in some sciences in terms of capturing our information, because indeed certain areas are quite wider to capture what is happening. You need quite advanced technologies to get some information. And this information which may be required within a short piece of time so that you can make a quick decision. These are emergency issues. So we intend to go into that, but as I indicated that this is still at early stage. We haven't started using science in collecting this information. So what we have reported are information, of course, which have been collected from, of course, we engage the public, but also certain department within the government aligned ministries, they have data related to loss and damages. So we depended to already available information to make a case for submitting to BTR in the previous ones. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gamwe. We are short on time, but if anyone else wants to add anything, please let me know. Yes, Lalaina.
Yes. Thank you for the question, Justine. In my point of view, I think that citizen-generated data can be very useful for monitoring loss and damage, especially when official data are limited. So in Madagascar, such data are already used in some local assessment and disaster response, but they are not fully integrated into national BTR reporting system for now. So because the main challenge is to ensure that the data are reliable and properly validated. So maybe in the future, we could develop a more structured citizen science approach, especially for community level and especially for non-economic losses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lalaina, and we are reaching the end of our webinar. I would like to thank you all so much for joining. I know you are all very busy people and you are like sharing your experience and your time with us, and that's really appreciated. And I would also like to thank the interpreters that they are trying to translating into French. And yes, and all the participants for joining. And I hope that now everybody, all the countries will like to report, all LDCs will report on loss and damage in the next BTR. So thank you so much. And yeah, see you in the next webinar.